welcome this evening to Beaumont City Council's closed session. We'll start the session at 5:01. Nicole, will you take roll call?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Santos?
Here.
Councilmember Fenn?
Here.
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Here.
Mayor Lara?
Here. Nicole, do we have any public comments?
I don't have any written comments and no one in the room. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay. Also, just a quick reminder that this meeting will be conducted utilizing teleconference communications and will be recorded for live streaming as well, and open to the public public attendance to social distancing and applicable with health orders. All City of Beaumont public meetings will be available via streaming and made available on the city's official YouTube webpage. Please use the following links for meeting and live stream process. And with that, we will adjourn to closed session.
And the two items are item number
sorry.
1, conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 for real property known as APNs 418-190-004, 418-190-005, and 418-190-006. Agency negotiator, city manager Todd Parton or his designee, and the negotiating parties are the City of Beaumont and Orem Capital. Under negotiation are price and terms. The second item is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. City designated representatives, City Manager Todd Parton and Administrative Services Director Carrie Mendoza. The employee organizations are the Beaumont Police Officers Association and the SEIU.
Thank you very much, John. on.
Your mic? Oh, your computer?
Council's coming back out of closed session. We will get caught up here. Mr. Pinckney, can you please report out from closed session?
Yes, the council met in closed session. Item number 1 was conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 for property known as portions of APNs 418-190-004, 418-190-005, and 006. The agency negotiator, the city manager, Todd Parton, or his designee. The negotiating parties, the city of Beaumont and Orem Capital, under negotiation were price and terms. The second, there was no reportable action on that item. The second item, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The city designated representatives, city manager Todd Parton and Administrative Services Director Carrie Mendoza. The employee organizations, the Beaumont Police Officers Association and the SEIU, and there was no reportable action taken on that item either, and that concludes the report out from closed session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pinckney. Nicole, can you go ahead and notate that to open the meeting at 6:02, and can you please take roll?
Councilmember Santos?
Here.
Councilmember Fenn?
Here.
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Here.
Mayor Lara?
Here. Thank you very much. Don't have an excused absence. Will you please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Councilmember Martinez, will you lead us? And then we will have invocation by Reverend Bill Dunn after.
Place your right hand over your heart, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I think this is the first time I've been here with Councilmember Fenn. So nice to meet you and good to see everyone else here. Looks like everyone's present and accounted for. And I've just been thinking before I pray, I've been here since 2010, and this is the first August that I don't have anybody going into school. Councilmember Martinez, who taught my daughter biology, will be happy to know that she's going to Berkeley and she'll start here in a couple of weeks. So a lot to be thankful for with the schools in this community and the neighborhood spirit, just the goodwill, and it seems like the place is growing, just kind of looking and checking it out on Facebook. So a lot to be thankful for. So with all that, let's bow our heads and have a word of prayer. Well, God, we give you thanks for the blessings of this day, and especially for the chance to live and work in Beaumont. Send down upon all our elected and appointed leaders the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all our people. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
You mind if I sit around and listen for a few minutes?
Absolutely. Sure, if you're having trouble sleeping, you're more than welcome to.
Absolutely.
Okay, I do have one adjustment to the agenda. I'd like to go ahead and move item 18 up, make that our first action item, if council's okay with that. Do you have? Okay. All right, thank you. So with that, we'll go to announcements and recognitions. We have the Purple Heart Day of recognitions. In recognition of Purple Heart Day, I'd like to reaffirm Resolution number 2018-41, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont declaring Beaumont a Purple Heart City and designating Purple Heart Day. It was resolved by the City Council of the City of Beaumont that the foregoing findings are adopted by the City Council as those set forth in full. City Council hereby proclaims the City of Beaumont as a Purple Heart City, honoring the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women wounded or killed by enemy while serving to protect the freedom enjoyed by all Americans. The City Council hereby proclaims that each August 7th shall be Beaumont Purple Heart Day to honor the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women wounded or killed serving to protect our freedom by all Americans. The City Council hereby proclaims and designated a parking spot in each city-owned parking lot with the appropriate signage reflecting the exclusive parking space area for Purple Heart veterans. So, thank you, and remember that August 7th is Purple Heart Day. We have no other recognitions or proclamations, which brings me to the public comment period. This meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the City Clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided on the front of the agenda. For anyone in person that wishes to address the council on any matter not on the agenda, please fill out a public comment form provided in the council chambers and give it to the city clerk. There is a 3-minute time limit on public comments. Also, Nicole, did you happen to check to see if we have anybody in the overflow that may need to be?
Deputy Chief checked, and we have nobody in overflow.
Thank you very
this
much.
time.
Are there any requests to speak?
I have no written comments. Does anyone in the room want to speak on this? You can just state your name. Is it on an item or? Okay, you can go ahead and come speak if you'd like. Just state your name.
Oh, we got a thing on it. Hi, my name's Chad Schnittger. This is honestly just a soft introduction. I am the Director of Policy for Chairman Hagman at the County of San Bernardino. I have several other jobs. I have a large public affairs company called Greystone Public Affairs. It does a lot of different things throughout Southern California. I am the president of the Faith and Freedom Coalition in the state of California, which is a very exciting organization we just started recently. I have a small kettle corn company that my nephews and nieces run for me up in Oak Glen, all kinds of fun stuff. And for the last 2.5 years, I have been a Beaumont city resident. Honestly, I'm simply coming to introduce myself and just kind of get a chance to see what's going on locally as somebody who does SCAG and SBCTA and all those different types of things for my boss Chairman Hagman in San Bernardino County. So I'm very familiar with kind of local agendas and things like that. I'm just kind of giving you all an introduction. I've emailed a handful of you guys. I have a small event going on at my house this Sunday, and it is open. It's just kind of neighbors. We're having like a neighbor barbecue. But that is essentially the only reason I'm here. No particular agenda or anything today. My name's Chad. I've lived here 2.5 years. I haven't had any time to say hi because my son is 2 years and 4 months. So we moved here just before the baby was born, and now that he's big enough that I can leave him for a couple hours to come say hi to the city council, I may see you guys at some events periodically. So I'm just trying to get involved in the community, and I'm happy to be here, and thank you for all the work and leadership you guys are doing. As we, Beaumont's one of the fastest growing cities, and there's a lot of good things to talk about. So that's all I'm here for. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation. Appreciate that.
I'm sorry. Sure, you can let your name. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
Yes, Nicole, we have one caller on the line. I'll transfer her in.
Caller, can you hear me?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, go ahead. You're on the line.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Lara, Mayor Pro Temp White, and City Council. My name is Catherine Brzezowski. I appreciated listening to your last City Council meeting regarding Beaumont's strategy around the housing element. Your consultant, Jen Murillo, indicated that the City of Beaumont has a shortage of 49 units of low-income housing, which you still must identify to be included in your housing element plan. My deceased father owned 3 vacant properties in Beaumont, with all 3 centrally located near Pennsylvania and 11th. Since he passed, my brother and I have listed the property and have been approached by low-income housing developers that were interested in putting low-income multifamily units on the property. We are asking to be included in your RENA Housing Sites Implementation Rezone Program. Each of the 3 properties that we own is between from 2 to 2.5 acres and combined equals 6.83 acres. They're located on a bus line, which fulfills the housing element's interest around parking concerns. Each of the properties already has an oversized water meter, overcoming another obstacle of water. There are other multifamily units, both to the north and south, within a few short blocks, as well as on adjacent properties. Therefore, we believe development on our properties is in conformity with the neighborhood. We are asking for our vacant land to be included in your list of inventory available for development of the housing element, and are asking the city for a rezone from single-family to multifamily zoning. This feels like a win-win so that you can be assured of having sufficient inventory of low-income housing, and we can be able to sell my dad's lands. Including our properties would allow you to fulfill your required additional 49 units of low-income housing and build in a buffer to ensure you hit your targets as is encouraged and required by the state of California. I've reached out to Jen Murillo at Lisa Weiss Consulting, and my brother was contacting Christina Taylor at the city. But I wanted to directly make City Council and the Mayor aware about our unique properties, knowing you are likely putting in a lot of resources to have your consultants find other properties to rezone. I will be reaching out to each of you tonight, so you have my contact information, and I will also try to attend your upcoming housing element meeting next week. We appreciate your time and consideration and welcome any suggestions for how we can further pursue inclusion in your housing element plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Carrie, do we have any other callers?
No other callers on the line.
Okay, so with that, that'll bring us to our consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are taken as one action item unless an item is pulled for further discussion here or at the end of the actions. Approval of all ordinances and resolutions to be read by title only. Are there any items council wishes to pull for discussion, or do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar item from item 2 through item 6.
I'll second that.
A roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. And that brings us to our public hearings. Item 7, continuation of appeal hearing from the final order of the hearing panel and order to abate nuisance, code case 001038-2020 at 1421 Faircliff Street, assessor's parcel number 428-100-028. The appeal hearing is open from a continuation of the July 20th, 2021 hearing. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council, this is an item that was continued on July 20th, 2021. And I just wanted to, you have in your packet a proposed resolution. And I just wanted to walk you through some of the more salient points of that resolution. On page 7 of the resolution, one of the items that the council had directed staff to address was the fines, the legal fees, and the staff costs that have been incurred in connection with this matter. And so I believe the city clerk has provided updated copies of the resolution with the updated information in it. And Nicole, Nicole, do they have that?
Yes, sir.
And so the fines levied are $76,060. The attorney's fees are $10,707.60, and that includes, that's not the actual amount of the attorney fees, but it includes a processing fee because there's a lot of staff time involved in going back through all the bills and compiling that information and then assuring its accuracy. And then in addition to that, and by the way, that processing fee is also called out in the city's fee schedule. And then in addition to that, there is $17,116.05 in staff-related costs in connection with this matter. So the total amount of the fines, attorney fees, and costs is $103,883.65. So I'd next turn your direction to page 8, the second paragraph. And so what we included in the resolution is that within 90 days from the date of this abatement resolution, the applicant and owner will pay the city the sum of $27,823.65, and that represents the city's attorney fees and its staff costs in connection with this matter. Should the applicant and owner fail to timely pay the above attorney's fees and costs and fail to strictly meet the deadlines that are set forth in Section 3, which I'll be going over in a moment, the applicant and owner shall pay and be liable for the above referenced fine, which is $76,060, and the fine would become a lien on the property. So what are the conditions? The conditions are set forth in Section 3, are based on the discussion that occurred at the last council meeting on this item, and it provides that the applicant and owner shall immediately cease and desist from any work or construction activity at the property except as expressly authorized herein. The applicant and owner of the property and/or agents of the property shall abate all of the violations at the property by taking the following actions within the time frame specified. And so the first time frame is within 30 days, and I'm going to go ahead and just read this because I included language in it that I think addresses issues that were raised by council members during the last meeting. Within 30 days from the date of this abatement resolution, applicant and owner shall hire a licensed California structural engineer at their own time and cost to conduct any needed inspection, testing, and analysis, including any needed destructive testing and actions needed to inspect concealed areas in order to evaluate the structure present at the property to determine whether or not the same structure is safe for habitation. A written document from a structural engineer certifying whether the structure at the property is safe for habitation shall be delivered to the city within this 30-day period. The second condition is that within 90 days from the date of this resolution being passed, if it is passed by the council this evening, the applicant and owner shall have a California licensed structural engineer prepare and submit plans and obtain city approval of said plans, as well as a permit to complete the work needed to abate and correct the violations. And then the third item is within 270 days from the date this resolution's passed, the applicant and owner shall complete construction and obtain final city inspections and approval for the work contemplated in the city approved plans. And then fourth, if any timeline, deadline, or condition set forth herein is not met by the stated deadline, city staff is directed to take all actions to obtain an order for abatement of the violations nuisance from the Superior Court and/or appointment of a receiver over the property to take any action authorized by law, including but not limited to enforcement of this abatement resolution. City staff shall seek an order from the court for reimbursement of all city costs and attorney fees. And then all costs related to the above conditions and deadlines are the applicant's and the owner's responsibility. And then lastly, I wanted to point out in Section 5 on page 9, if desired, the owner may seek judicial review of the abatement resolution, and that has to be done within 90 days after the posting on the property of a notice of passage of this resolution. So those are the sections that I wanted to bring to the council's attention.
Thank you, Mr. Bingley. Nicole, do we have any public comments on this item?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, so with that, I will close the hearing at 6:20. And open this up for council discussion or a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, upholding the decisions of the hearing panel in order to abate new public nuisance at 1421 Faircliff Street in Beaumont, California.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos,
Aye.
Councilmember Finn,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White,
Yes.
Mayor Lara.
Yes. That brings us to item 8, public hearing to consider the placement of delinquent solid waste handling service charges on the property tax roll. Staff report by Ms. Jennifer Boostation.
And Your Honor, before we get into the staff report, I'm going to recuse myself on this item due to the fact that it could potentially have an impact on the city's solid waste franchisee, which is a company that one of the attorneys in my firm has represented and handled legal matters for. So for that reason, I'm going to step out of the room and recuse myself.
Thank you, Mr. Pena.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is to collect delinquent solid waste handling service charges to go on the property tax roll. In accordance with Health and Safety Code, we must hold a public hearing. The notice of the public hearing was published in the Press Enterprise newspaper, and a notice was also mailed to the owners of each parcel for which the charges will be placed on the tax roll. The total this year is $183,540.02. Exhibit A is a list of parcel numbers by parcel number of the delinquencies. And by approving the proposed resolution, the City Council will be authorizing the city to collect delinquent solid waste handling charges and fees in accordance with the city's agreement with Waste Management. And the recommended action is to conduct a public hearing and waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, authorizing the collection of delinquent solid waste handling service charges on the property tax roll. I'm available for any questions, as well as Sue Foxworth from Public Works.
Thank you very much, Ms. Station. With that, I will open the public hearing at 6:23. Do we have any public comments?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
So with that, I will close the public hearing at 6:23. Do we have any council discussion, or do I have a motion? Yes, Councilmember Finn.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Station, can you, for being the new guy here, can you please explain the process real quick as to what has been done to reach out to these property owners? My experience in the past as a local real estate agent is oftentimes when a bill gets unpaid like this, that sometimes it's due to the fact that someone has sold their home and there's new change of ownership, and the new person coming in sees the old homeowner's name on the bill and just discards it, and then that bill ends up being delinquent over time. Is there a process in terms of a number of attempts to collect before this goes to the tax roll? And can you explain the general process on that?
I'm going to pass that over to Sue Foxworth. She works directly with Waste Management on the collection of these and how that works, so she could explain the process much better than I could.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sue Foxworth. So the process is that we mail out a letter for anyone that is delinquent. So we reach out to all the APNs that are listed, and then we also do 2 published notices of hearings in the newspapers. And then we give them a final date to when they can pay, and then it is cut off, and then they have to, as of today, parcels that have not paid the delinquents will be put on the property tax roll.
Okay, and then last question on that. Once they're on the tax roll, are they still subject to interest penalties, or is that set dollar amount that goes on that tax bill for that particular year? And if it's collected from the county, then that's considered owed and paid at that point, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or motion?
I have a question or comment on this.
Councilmember Santos?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, on this bill, I mean, on the solid waste thing in here is being put on the tax roll. My issue on this is, you know, most of the, homeowners seeing it and seeing under a tax bill, it shows in there, you know, the CFD, you got the 2 CFD in there, and then you got the measure A, and then there's also another tax that is not being paid is the sewer issue in there. Now, most of the seller or the owner or the landlord not seeing this. I mean, because the just follow on what I'm saying in here, because of the landlord don't see the bill on this is the tenant not even paying it because that's part of the rental. Now the landlord is not being informed, and then they'll be behind by maybe a year, 2 years, or 3 years. Now my biggest issue in here is this, putting this on the tax roll, and I don't mind putting the tax roll on public. What I'm saying is the waste management company is a private company, and then we as a city are putting them on a public collections or putting on the tax roll. That's the biggest issue I have on this collections we'll be doing. And looking on this side, you got $183,540 a month, and I'd like to find out, is this bill, what's the average on days that not being collected? It doesn't show in here. I mean, because on the waste management is every month on this, not like on the sewer is bi-monthly. If I average this, probably I would say you got 650 on this. The average on this is probably around $280 every parcel on this. I did run on the parcel on this. I mean, most of the parcel it's like Seneca Spring, and some is the Tournament Hills that investors owns it, and then even some of it is from it's Stetson. That there's in one parcel there's 32 parcel in there that if you look on the parcel number 418 or all of these 419, if you look in there, it bunch on that parcel. So it means they're not getting there. Even Solera is part of it. So that will be quite interesting to find out more detail on this, seeing how long is this being like here. I mean, you get almost one is at $8,000. I mean, we have to do our due diligence. I know this one might be a commercial on this. I do understand that. But my point is, why the city will be getting involved on the private company on this, like solid waste management. I know we have an agreement with them 3 years ago. I know the whole story on that. So that's my main concern on this, item. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Park, will you address that for us?
I will. So as Councilmember Santos had mentioned, one of the elements in our agreement with Waste Management is that we would teeter any unpaid balances due at the end of the year to ensure that those revenues could come in. Those do have, unpaid balances have an impact on all the ratepayers in the city. So if individuals stop paying their bills or they're going into arrears, that cost still has to be borne by Waste Management, and it could potentially impact the rate calculations needed for the balance of the citizens. So this is a way to ensure
that those payments are made, that the rate calculations and the rate components of the agreements are whole and kept intact. So there is a public interest to ensuring that these rates are being paid. And it really is a public service that's being secured by the city through a contract with Waste Management. So it is a public service, it's a public utility being provided, contracted by the city. And as I mentioned, there is a rate fairness issue for all the customers and citizens within the city. When you look at some of those larger bills, those are going to be commercial projects, not residential in those cases. Or they could be developer bins or things like that that are there that are just in arrears. So hope that helps address some of those questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I could add to that for Mr. Parton, just a couple of other things that we contemplated when we negotiated this agreement. So instead of cutting service off, which would become a code enforcement issue, we agreed to place these items on the teeter at that time. And that's both for commercial as well as residential. Both of these in the required service also help us meet all of our solid waste mandates by the state. And in being able to meet those mandates, we have to provide the service.
Thank you for that additional information, Christine. Councilmember Finn?
Yes, hopefully I can phrase my question correctly. But are accounts settled when services change to a new owner? And then, for example, then what is also done to notify a new property owner that they need to register and set up that trash service so then the billing goes to the correct owner? Leading to the fact of, has there been any list reconciliation with the parcels that are there, looked at who the current property owner is, and is that current property owner registered as the person that you're sending the bill to? Example is, if there's an out-of-state property owner at 1234 Main Street, is that out-of-state owner on that bill, and do you have the correct address so we don't continue to have the same properties fall behind, then when it reaches the certain threshold, then it goes back on the tax rolls again. That we have an effort to try to trim the list and collect the funds, and, a lot closer to when they're due. Does that make sense?
If I may, yes, I get a final list on a certain date that we schedule with Waste Management, and I comb through every single one of the APNs, looking at the parcel, the owner, and if there's any discrepancies, I go back to Waste Management to see the history or anything like that, so to try to avoid those types of situations. So I hope that explains it a little.
Okay, so we can properly assume that the property owner, the correct property owner for each of these parcels has been notified to their mailing address of the property of record that there's an outstanding bill due, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have any more questions, or do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move to waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, authorizing the collection of delinquent solid waste handling service charges on the property tax roll.
I'll second.
Councilmember Santos?
No.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to item 9, a public hearing to consider the placement of delinquent sewer service charges on the property tax roll. Staff report by Ms. Jennifer Eustachian.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This item is similar to the one before and is to collect delinquent sewer service charges on the property tax roll. To place delinquencies on the tax roll, the account has to be delinquent at least 2 billing cycles, which is at least 4 months behind. The total for this year is $574,011. Now, this is an estimate, as we will be collecting payments up to the time when the list is uploaded to the county. And the list is ran at the 11th hour to count for payments that have come in. And the recommended action is to conduct a public hearing and waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, authorizing the collection of delinquent sewage service fees and charges on the property tax roll.
Thank you, Ms. Eustachian. I will open the public hearing at 6:35. Do we have any public comments, Nicole?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, then I will close the hearing at 6:36. Does council have any comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Finn.
My simple question would be, has the city completed the same level of due diligence that was discussed in the previous item?
Yes, notices have gone out to anyone that is in arrears. They get it within their bills. I believe there were postcards that were also sent out. If I'm speaking wrong, Carrie can go ahead and correct me, but there is a process that is done that they are notified and aware that these will be going onto the property tax rolls.
And again,
As well
that
as
it
the
was
property owner.
to non-owner occupied as well to make sure they have the correct mailing address for that owner, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Tenant and owner, correct.
Any other comments from council, or do we have a motion?
Quick comment, Mayor?
Councilmember Santos.
Yeah, on the descriptions on this, I mean, this is good. I mean, I like this. I mean, the only thing is on the tax roll and the billing, also, it doesn't show in there what year. And, that'll be nice to, because it describes only, it says in there that the sewer service in there, but there's no year or what year is being lien against the property or being collected against the property. That's all I would suggest that we have to put that, what year is that? I mean, because on the billing itself, we are on the, by monthly on that, I think $84, $87 every payments on that, on the billing cycle. And if I look on this number in here, the average is, you're right, I mean, I think it's 530 or something, but there's more in there. If you look on the average, so that will be on the whole billing will be a 6 cycle billing in there, 6 payments. But if you calculate some are you're talking about almost 10 cycle billings. So that would be nice what we're collecting and showing there. So the homeowners or the investors or the landlord seeing, especially the tenants that they're being billed, so they could pass it to the landlord on this. That's the thing that I like to see that on my billing. I got several properties that it doesn't show the years in there. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Finn. Any other comments from council, or do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we waive the full reading and adopt by title only resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, authorizing the collection of delinquent sewage service fees and charges on the property tax roll.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Sorry. Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. And that brings us to action items. And as discussed earlier, we'll go ahead and go over action item 18. Let me get to that. Action item 18 is Public Safety Enterprise Communication.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to keep my comments brief, and we have a presentation from the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Before that, I just want to let you know this will be the first in a series of 3 council meetings. We'll be discussing radio and radio purchase, communications, and some grant opportunities we seized upon. But this evening, I just want to remind council that the Beaumont Police Department is a member of the Eastern Riverside County Interoperable Communications Authority, we affectionately call ERICA. And we're at a unique point in our relationship where the system, either one needs to be majorly upgraded, or the city needs to be informed and make a decision if we should move into the sheriff's radio system, which is called PSAC, Public Safety Enterprise Communication. And with that, I'd like to introduce the Undersheriff for Riverside County, Dennis Ruman.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor, City Council members, for having me here. City Manager Parton for inviting me as well, too, for a presentation. Before I get started with the formal presentation, I just want to give a little bit of background, my history with PSEC. So I've been a sworn law enforcement for 33 years, 29 years here in Riverside County. And prior to coming to the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Bianco asked me to come over to the Sheriff's Department, but I spent just under 27 years with the Murrieta Police Department. So the vast majority of my career is in municipal law enforcement. And part of my responsibility as a captain there at Murrieta was to bring the Murrieta Police Department into the county's PSEC radio program. I was the project manager on that, which started back in 2015. So that was my first involvement with PSEC. Since that time, many other agencies have joined PSEC, other law enforcement agencies. And then since coming to the Sheriff's Department, it fell under my umbrella. And one of the things I shared with Sheriff Bianco is we really need to have the vision of having it be a regional county-wide radio system, which means all police departments, public safety agencies need to be on the system. That was the original intention. So I've been on the steering committee. I'll talk a little bit about that. Been on the steering committee for the last 6.5 years or so with Murrieta PD, and then my transition into the Sheriff's Department with that. Whoops. So some of the topics I'd like to cover for you this evening is really the overall goals of PSEC is a regional radio system, the onboarding benefits to coming on to PSEC, the current ERICA operational costs, which I'll go over a little bit, what you're currently paying as a member of the ERICA system. And by the way, this is my fourth presentation to city councils within ERICA. One city, Desert Hot Springs, didn't feel a need. I think they already know which way they want to go. And so this is the fourth one that I put on. I put on presentations with Indio, Palm Springs, Cathedral City, and now the city of Beaumont.
I just wanted to interrupt, and I apologize, but because this is going to be a discussion that involves Erica, and our firm represents Erica, I'm going to recuse myself.
So I want to talk about some transition options that might be available to you as well, and then some of the grant funding that that you're eligible for, that I believe you've already received or will receive, and some questions here. So the PSEC system was envisioned by the County of Riverside back over a decade ago. It kind of came into fruition back in 2014 when the Sheriff's Department, County Probation Department, DA, all the county entities came on board. And as I mentioned before, in 2015, the following year, Murrieta's system was failing, and so we needed to get onto another system. So we looked at different options. Do we invest money in our own system, or do we join the county's radio system? And so if you can kind of envision that, you know, the county, it's one big umbrella. The radio system is one big umbrella, and the ERICA agencies have kind of a smaller umbrella underneath that big umbrella. So rather than investing money into your own system here, it's just another option for you. So with the goal, as I mentioned before, is to have all the public safety agencies in the county, and even we're reaching out to some of the tribal law enforcement agencies as well, both on the law enforcement side and fire to join onto the system. So we're having conversations as we speak. So again, just some summary of benefits here, but the biggest ones right here is the critical connect. So the county has invested money into having a direct connect eventually with other counties that come on board onto a similar technology platform system. Really, the PSEC system is probably the most technologically advanced of all the systems of the surrounding counties in Southern California. So as soon as they really catch up to us, then we'll be able to have interoperable communications directly with them. And because the city of Beaumont sits very in close proximity to the San Bernardino County border, that will come in handy to be able to not just talk to the Sheriff's Department that totally surrounds you and Banning PD, by the way, is on the system and has been since 2015 as well too. But it'll have you, the ability to direct connect and talk with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, which is just in your backyard. We also went through a major upgrade to all the microwave system with all the towers that we have in the county. So there's roughly about 75 or 80 tower sites that support the system. It extends into the state of Arizona because we go all the way out to Blythe. It goes into some of the lower part of San Bernardino County as well as some of the other surrounding counties. So there is connectivity even driving outside the county that you'll still have that radio connectivity really with the city of Beaumont and the surrounding agencies. So here's just kind of an overall look at some of the cell sites that we have throughout the county. So this is just a snapshot of the map of the county of Riverside. You can see it's quite a robust network of connection points that totally cover the city of Beaumont. So like I mentioned, here's the financial investments that we put into the system over the past several years. And this is stuff that the county put in without passing it on to the ratepayers within the county radio system. So they know that this is infrastructure improvements that need to be done and was not included into the PSEC rates. And I mentioned the microwave system as well too, and this is again a county investment. So here's all the agencies that are on the system here. So Sheriff's Department on the left with each of our 16 contract cities are obviously also included. But if you look to the right, you see all the other non-county agencies that are currently on the system. The most recent to go on live onto the system as of last week was the Hemet Police Department. So we have every agency in western Riverside County, and we have that's on the system currently right now, as of last week. So one of the things that when I came to the Sheriff's Department, I shared with the county executive office and the board of supervisors ultimately is we needed to adopt some incentive program to get the agencies to fulfill the vision in getting all the agencies on board. So what we did at the time is we had a 0-year incentive period to where if you joined last fiscal year, you would pay no PSEC rates. 25% this fiscal year that just started in July, 50% the following year, 75%, and then 100%. And by having more users on the system, the rates will continue to go down. So right now the rate is about $164 per month per radio, but honestly, it's my goal to get that below 100, and I believe very strongly that we're going to be able to do that by the time it gets to 100%, we get all the agencies on board with all the radios and the system in place, that's not a unreasonable goal. We're talking to several different fire departments and also federal law enforcement agencies to get them on board as well too. So I do see that is a realistic possibility. July 1, one of the things that we did is PSEC was just a subsidiary of the county's IT department. It was actually housed within the IT department. What we did is we lobbied the board of supervisors and said, look, this is a public safety radio system. It would be a better fit if it were under the Sheriff's Department. Still a separate entity. It has a separate steering committee, budget, board of directors, those type of things, but it should be housed and managed by the Sheriff's Department. You know, we feel very strongly that that's the best way to market the system and get all the other public safety agencies onto the system. We're also talking to AMR and obviously the county fire department as well to get them on board. So here's how PSEC is governed. It didn't change from moving from the IT department to the sheriff's department. Still, the Board of Supervisors sets the rates, but that's as a recommendation of the steering committee. Who are the steering committee? They're members of each of the agencies that are members of PSEC. When Murrieta first joined, the rates were about $220 per month per radio. And of course, we came in under the first wave of a discount program as well, too. They're starting to inch up. They got maybe a few more years left. They'll be at the 100% rate within a few short years. But to see how much that the rates have come down just in that short a period of time, it's, like I said, that's been my push, is to lower the rates. So with your current Erica operating costs, I'm sure you're probably well aware of the cost, and it's 5 cities into a single JPA spread amongst the 5 agencies, some by scope or across the board costs that are commonly shared. Your operational costs are roughly $1.2 million that are divided out. But what's keeping the JPA alive is the debt that is on the system currently, the debt that needs to be retired. The city of Beaumont and the city of Cathedral City has retired the debt. You have no debt. 3 of the other cities still have 2 more years of debt, this year and next year, and then after that, the debt has been paid, and the Erica agencies as a whole or individually have the freedom to find another radio system or choose to invest at this point in time. While I can't speak for the other cities, it appears that some, maybe all, may choose to come over to PSEC as well, which, if the system were to stay intact under this option, those costs would, instead of being divided by 5 cities, would be maybe by 4 cities, 3 cities, 2 cities, and then at some point in time, it becomes your own radio system by 1 or 2 cities, and the costs far exceed the PSEC amounts. So here's roughly what you pay per year as a member of Erica. So a couple options for you, and it doesn't matter if you stayed as an entity as Erica or you came over to PSEC. Your end user radio equipment, the radios that's in the cars or that's on the hip of each of your officers, needs to be upgraded to a P25 TDMA system, basically, or compliant. And whether you stay on Erica or not, it's the shelf life of your equipment it needs to be replaced. And so I think after going and doing this presentation to your Erica board in October of last year, that was the decision point. Do we invest or not invest? But the end user radio equipment needs to be replaced whether or not you come to PSEC. So what I did is I looked at some of the costs per radio just based on what you would pay, what Motorola is quoting you, and if you leased it for over a 7-year period, which is the cheaper option in the long run. And then also with one of the costs that if you decided to go on your own, like I said, I'll show you the comparison between the Erica and the PSEC costs individually as a comparison. So these numbers right here I got from Chief Talese, how many radios that you would actually need. So the mobile radios is how many in your cars. The portables, again, are assigned to the officers. And then you also have other departments that are users of the Erica system. So a couple options as well, too. Could you transition your police department first and then other city departments later? maybe with different radios altogether. There are a few options. There are 3 different brands that are approved. You have Motorola, you have Harris, and then you also have Kenwood. And we, the Sheriff's Department, use Kenwoods at our correctional facilities, and Motorola's out in the field. Some of the other police departments use the Harris radios, but they're all 3 qualified radios on the system. Motorola is the backbone system as far as your dispatch equipment. And my understanding is your dispatch equipment is not, just needs a simple software upgrade at all 4 of the dispatch centers, soon to be 5. I think Desert Hot Springs is going to get their own dispatch center and break off from Cathedral City. But you don't have to go out and buy new consoles in your dispatch center. They're already compatible with our PSEC system. So it goes over your operating costs, and then this slide probably has the most information. And let me kind of share with you a little bit about the first slide as we move laterally across in the fiscal year 21-22. So, and that's right now. So I believe Motorola is quoting you an option to purchase radios, don't have to make any payments for 2 years, and the payments are essentially deferred. Whether you come on to PSEC now or you wait 2 years, if you acquire the radios now, you're not making payments one way or the other for a 2-year period here. Your JPA costs are, again, $239,000. There is the one-time cost that I mentioned for $165,000 that you would need to do a software upgrade to your dispatch center consoles. I believe maybe you have two consoles, 2 dispatch consoles there, but it's a one-time software upgrade. So and that $165,000 figure would, whether you come over in 21-22, 22-23, whatever year you come over would be $165,000. The PSEC rates right now, based upon the amount of radios that you've quoted us at the 25%, roughly about $125,000 per year. Now, if you wanted to live in both systems right now, and if you were financially obligated to pay into Erica, you can compare that $290,000 with what you'd pay $239,000 absent making any payments on the purchase of the equipment. The $165,000 one time right there, but you can compare $290,000 to $239,000 if you were to be in PSEC only because of that $165,000. Move down to the other figure. If you had to live in both systems, it's going to be more expensive right now until that debt is paid off by the other cities, and you don't have to pay that roughly $250,000 to remain in Erica for this fiscal year and next fiscal year. So the same holds true in 23-24. 22-23. So fiscal year 23-24, that's when, if you bought your Motorola equipment, you'd probably start having to make some payments. But the good thing is that you have some grants that have been made available to the city of Beaumont, about $250,000 for radio purchases through the ADA grant. And what that is each of the police chiefs in the county and the Sheriff Bianco, they all collectively decided for the next 2 years, we want to get all the Erica agencies onto PSEC. Well, how do we do that? How do we incentivize that? All the agencies except for the Erica agencies all subordinated and said, we're not going to ask for any grant funding. We're going to let it go to all 5 of the Erica agencies. And based upon a formula that each of the Erica chiefs came up with, based on a proportion, each of those cities would get a certain amount of money, I believe $112,000 or so for the next couple of years, in addition to your $250,000. So really what you're looking at is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about $400,000 $470,000 that you'll be getting to purchase your end user radio equipment, with the hopefulness that you'll come on to PSEC, because you need that end user radio equipment anyways. And we did that several years ago. I believe all the chiefs did that with the Hemet Police Department, where they subordinated in order to get them as an incentive to come on board as well too. So separate from what PSEC charges, you're still going to need to have your what we call your SUA, or service use agreement, with Motorola. Something that right now all 5 ERICA agencies pay into one, and you have one master service use agreement for all your dispatch consoles with all the other agencies. Moving it, if you came over to PSEC, you would have your own individual contract with Motorola, and roughly, it's maybe about $30,000 to $50,000 a year, depending on what year you join. First year is a warranty period. The second year is when you pay. I talked about some of the grant funding already. This is a little bit more of the details with it. So next year when it comes up again, there's already a handshake agreement with the chiefs that the ERICA agencies will get the same amount of money split amongst the 5 of them for radio equipment. So really your decision points ultimately is, do you remain in ERICA with the hope and understanding that the other 4 agencies will also do the same and want to make that same investment, or migrate to PSEC? Personally, we'd love to have you, and I think it would be, thinking from my municipal experience, it would be the best thing for the county to have all the agencies to have the ability to talk to one another. What's unique about the city of Beaumont in the past, you're totally surrounded by other PSEC users and the county sheriff's department and the Banning Police Department as well too. So to have that interoperability and be able to talk would go a long way in having you on the system. So and your ability to talk with anybody else. So for that, I'll open it up if you have any questions.
And right before we get into that, there's some closing thoughts, 2 thoughts for the council. To just drive home everything the undersheriff mentioned is, it wasn't but a handful of years ago that the rogue former LAPD officer, Christopher Dorner, went on a murdering spree. And of course, his #1 target was police officers. He was cornered in Big Bear, and one of the first police agencies to assist San Juan County Sheriffs was Beaumont PD, because it's right the back way through Oak Glen, right up the highway. And then we remember the December 2nd terrorist attack in the city of San Bernardino. The Beaumont Police Department responded and took a large chunk of perimeter. Out of those after-action reports, interoperability was the #1 concern. Agencies weren't able to communicate with one another. And just to drive that point home, even to this day, we have foot pursuits and critical incidents involving the sheriffs and the Banning Police Departments, and we cannot communicate with one another through radio. Even our joint task forces, we have to borrow radios from the sheriff or other entities for our task force officers to communicate with their partners. So picture one officer is on the back of the house before a raid, and they can't communicate with the officers in the front to let somebody know they're running, they're hitting the door. So the fact that our radio system that we're currently on is completely failed, even in parts of the city, it just drives home the point of our recommendation that we'll make to you, and then we'll open it up to questions. But if you look at our recommended action, it's for the city council to direct staff to coordinate with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department with the migration to the PSEC radio system, and then bring back the proposal to the city council to discuss specifically the costs and the timelines of integration. And then with that, the undersheriff and I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Nicole, do we have any public comment on this item?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
Okay, with that, I will open it up to council comments or questions. Mayor Pro Tem White.
So, sitting in the ERICA discussions, the issues that we brought up the last time we met was if some of us want to leave earlier than others, you know, what the cost ramifications are. And I understand that I'm really not going to get my answers on those details until you have a chance to work out with the sheriff's department, the migration process, and bring it back to us as far as cost goes. You did mention that we could transition some of the, say, the Beaumont PD first and then the other agencies, but that wouldn't work with having PSEC and Erica at the same time, would it?
Functionally, you can, because the radios that you're purchasing, really, every channel and frequency can be put into into the radios. So they can be duly programmed with both your Erica and also the PSEC channels as well, too. So you'd still have the ability, while you migrate the other city departments that are currently part of Erica, you could still functionally talk. So the police department here could talk to them, and you could let the system kind of, matriculate out type of thing like that, because your other city agencies, if they decide to come on to, from Erica to PSEC, they're probably going to do the same thing too, get their police, 2 of them have fire departments, get them on board first, and then the other city departments, as funds become available for more radios, and they kind of figure out a plan of action, and as monies come available as well too.
Okay. And as we've talked before, and as we were told again tonight, Beaumont does not have any debt on Erica. And so my thought originally when we were having discussions with Erica was, well, we can leave. How does that impact us if we leave? And there were some issues that came up that the other cities, and if you could, remind us of those issues, why we can't just leave and.
Right. So because to protect the bondholder, which is the city of Indio, because they carried the bond for us, to protect them, the JPA was written that no individual member can leave while any member is still holding debt. So while we in Cathedral City pay down our debt, we still have our annual subscriber fee that we're obligated to pay. Yeah.
And we have to stay until all the debt is retired.
Correct, but we have to stay and pay our annual fee, but we don't have to utilize it. Meaning we can be a member of it, but actually have our police officers operate on PSEC.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was all I had right now. Thank you.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes, thank you. So along the same line of questioning, so if I understand this correctly, Palm Springs, Desert Hot Springs, and Indio, they still have debt? Or have they paid it off like we have?
They still have debt.
Okay.
On either their hardware or.
And that debt is not expected to exceed that 2023 date? for them?
Correct. They should be paid off this fiscal year plus one more fiscal year, yeah. So two more July 1st payments.
Okay. And should they decide to stay with the current system and we left, then that's on them, we're out, we don't have any other obligations beyond that date, so forth. It just may be a question of if we're going that direction, do we go in partially now? And if we go full steam ahead, if we go full in, then we still have that subscription fee, or that, if I'm calling it the correct thing.
Right, it's the subscriber fee. So
Yes.
the most important thing is that the Erica board does not absorb any more debt. And I think the board understands that. We've asked our representatives to not incur more debt, meaning we as individual agencies are purchasing our radio instead of Erica purchasing the radios. That way Erica doesn't absorb more debt. But if, let's say a few of the departments wanted to stay, just like the undersheriff mentioned, your 20% is now going to balloon up to perhaps 35%. Plus you have to do all the upgrades. And then as far as Beaumont being on the extreme edge, we don't have double redundancy. So if our repeaters go down, we're dead in the water. We don't have a backup system where under PSEC, if any one particular tower goes down, then you bounce off another tower. And I think there's 65 and
A little over 70.
over 70 towers. So there's always redundancy on our radio communications.
Okay, and then back to that debt, how long did it take the city to pay that off? And then how does that compare with that debt and so forth and that service agreement they have to like the average life of the equipment, the car radios and then the personal radios? Is it a 10-year program to pay the debt off and every 5 years you need radios? What's the kind of, is there a relation there or what you've seen in your experience?
So I don't know how soon the city of Beaumont or Cathedral City had paid down their fair share of the bond debt. But our radio program is about 10 years. We've had the current radios for 10 years. That's a stretch. They have been failing. The parts aren't there anymore. And, you know, technology just moves so fast. We'll talk again next council meeting more about the individual radios when we bring that proposal to you. But about a 10-year CIP plan is what we're figuring for all the mobile and portable radios.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I can help you answer that if you want me to, Chief.
Absolutely. From the sky.
From the sky.
Sorry. Erica launched in 2008. The city's debt obligation was all paid full in cash. As we built the Mount David Tower here in town, that was considered our debt obligation to our infrastructure, which expanded the footprint. So again, that was in 2008. And now we're in 2021. Our radios have reached end of life. It was just time for us to decide, do we upgrade our existing system or do we join the county? So we weren't actually part of the bond debt in the beginning. We just paid cash for our portion, which was considered our buy-in for the debt payment, if you will, and to become an equal partner of Erica.
Okay, and could those microwave towers and so forth, let's say if everybody skips out on Erica in the future, can those be reused or help with further redundancy and that sort of stuff? Or is it just that's obsolete equipment and it comes down in the future?
I think
Unfortunately, we can look at some sale of some equipment, but in all honesty, it's all end of life. So
Okay.
it's not highly likely that we're going to get a lot of money for it.
Okay, thank you.
Fortunately.
Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, so Chief, when's the soonest that we would be able to leave Erica wholly, meaning that no other agencies in debt?
Assuming that they
Didn't
stay
acquire
on their
anymore.
payment schedule, then we would be, and they chose to dissolve, it'd be at the June 30th of 2023.
And what was a concern of mine is the fact that Erica's gonna need a lot of upgrades. If the other agencies decided they wanna stay and we give our intentions that we wanna leave, and they decide to go into further debt, how much are we having to foot that bill? Are we still having to pay our 20%?
Yeah, let me see if I can reframe
Because I don't
that.
know if they vote and it's a
Right.
5-member agency, I believe. So if 4 say, yeah, we're gonna stay, and we say we're gonna leave, and they vote to put $2 million into their system, how much are we obligated to pay that? That's
Absolutely. So, and I don't want to speak for the cities, and
Right.
perhaps the undersheriff could. I know this is his 4th presentation, and I believe 2 councils have given direction to migrate to PSAC. Desert Hot Springs they're in the infant stages of building for the first time, their very own dispatch center. And my understanding is it's PSAC compatible. So there's really a clear indication of where all the cities are moving.
And I guess since the PSEC went live 2014 and we moved into Erica 2008, that this wasn't there, and that's why we went to Erica, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and it seems that outlived what we need, so the PSEC came about. Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all.
And I'll add to that, Julio, if you don't mind, Mayor Martinez, or Councilmember Martinez, the Erica board voted to enter into a budget this year that was just a carryover budget with the intent to not incur any additional debt until such time as all the cities made a decision. We have a board meeting in September, and each city was tasked with coming back and reporting their transition plan. What does their timing look like on purchasing the radios? And there is an overwhelming majority to make the move to PSEC. Maybe not officially from all their respective councils yet, so far from the board members' viewpoints and opinions. So that's all we've done as a carryover budget to cover our current liabilities on the books and incur no additional debt.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure, thank you.
I'm good, Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Couple of questions. Looking at the potential for what I'll refer to as expansion, only because you'll be bringing more customers on. Typically, what happens with the county anyways, in my experience, is with expansion, there's more employees, higher rates seem to go along with that, higher operating costs. And that's the concern that I have is we're in it at a lower rate if we decide to move over, but then with expansion and growth and increased operating costs, how would you plan to keep those rates down and prevent that from being passed on to ratepayers?
That's a great question. So if you ever heard Sheriff Bianco speak, one of the things that he mentions quite frequently is the word efficient. And so one of the things that we did when we took over PSEC, we looked at, well, how many employees do they have? Because really, what the rates do is support the infrastructure in there. Well, I can tell you back in the day when they started PSEC back in 2014, they had over 40 employees. We have just between, I think, 23 employees right now. And one of the things, not all of them came over to the sheriff's department. Some retired, left, and quite honestly, I don't see the need to replace some of the positions. So we're restructuring some of those to lower the cost. And so my mantra has been, look, we got to get it below 100. And how are we going to do that to keep things efficient is have more users on the system. The infrastructure doesn't really change. We're adding actually two different sites onto the system. One at the request of the Corona Police Department, and the other one I was involved with the Murrieta Police Department, and those are going to be added to the system. But the cost of the system, the infrastructure, is a known quantity, and so the amount of employees there, what it takes to actually do the job, and with vendors and things like that, we're lowering the overhead. And then the double check to that is it's not just me or the sheriff. We're just one user on the system. It's all the other police agencies and police chiefs and their delegates to say, hey, look, no, we're going to not invest in this. We want this. Why are the costs, the way they are? One of the things too, during the transition, there's a couple employees, a finance employee that they had. Well, we lowered some of the job titles that were already in place with the IT department. We have a much more robust accounting and finance, larger scale. So there's some positions that could be shared as opposed to 100% of an FTE, a full-time employee. It might be shared with another entity. And these are all the things that we're bringing forward to the steering committee over this next year. So when we adopt our budget next year, we can say, hey, look, this is the efficiency. We've saved $500,000 already in 1 year off the $14 million budget that we have. So these are the things that constant improvement of what we can do to keep those costs down permanently.
Okay, thank you for that. In my former position, I was the billing official within the county of Riverside. One of the things that at least our department at the time, it was under the county, PSEC was under the county. One of the things we couldn't afford to do was to purchase the radios because we were mandated at that time to get Motorola or you couldn't be on the system. And I know Motorola's are fairly expensive. What do they run compared to the Harris and compared to the Kenwood?
So the right now with the newest technology, Motorola's, I believe you're quoted just about $9,000 per radio on the handhelds, and maybe it was a little bit less than that on
About 7,000 or something for a Kenwood, as an example.
Yes, so they're a couple thousand or two cheaper for the Kenwoods, and so that's why we, the sheriff's department, looked at, well, in a custody setting, those might work out better. We don't need the Motorola's. We looked at it at the time as a kind of a cost effectiveness. When I was with Murrieta, just like Corona Hemet, I believe Menifee, we all have Harris radios, but that's a personal choice, and, some have different radios they all work. They all work great, optimally. There's no issues. And those 3 brands have been approved for the system. So it comes down to a personal choice, of what you wanna do as a city.
Okay. And they, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chief.
Real quick, Mayor, we're gonna come to you next council meeting and ask for approval on the Motorola's. And the reason is, so the city of Beaumont's very unique in its geography. We have valleys and low points throughout Tournament Hills fairways. The interesting thing about the new technology in the Motorola's is if it can't connect to a tower, it automatically connects to a cell tower and can still transmit your officers' radio transmissions to our dispatch center. So we should never lose connectivity. Right now, we cannot communicate safely in Tournament Hills or fairways, our officers right now with the radios we have. So just remember the unique topography of Beaumont, going from flat to the hills to the valley, and then our OES and search and rescue complications of our hills and our southern extreme, South Highland Springs and then Mount David and such. So it's very unique in that sense.
So then even with the number of, are you saying then with the number of PSEC towers that we would, if we moved over to the PSEC, we'd still have issues with communication? That's why we would need the Motorola's. We wouldn't be able to use any of the other radios?
So currently the PSEC coverage, because we did a trial, currently the PSEC is a much better coverage than Erica, even though Erica was set for Beaumont. But there are areas where we have found challenges, and those take time for PSEC to set what I call tweak off the San Jacinto site, and it's common. And I understand even from when we met a couple of years ago, it's improved. But the great thing is if we lose range one way or another, then we can connect to a cell tower and still transmit.
Okay. I think that covers my questions. Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question regarding the timing of us being able to leave Erica. The subscriber fee is paid at the beginning of a fiscal year, is that correct?
I believe so. We budget for it to come out at the beginning of the fiscal
So
year.
once we pay
Yes.
that, there's no reason that we would need to stay to the end of the year. In other words, there's no difference between when we make our last payment that we can't move fully transition at that point.
Correct. So if council gave direction to come back with a presentation with the sheriff's department to migrate, we could migrate. We could start the process as soon as you give the green light. We're just obligated to still make our subscriber
So we could
payments.
actually pay the subscriber fee ahead of time.
You could pay it and then still operate on PSEC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, or do I have a motion?
I don't know that we need a motion, but I'm good with directing staff to coordinate with the sheriff's department.
Me too, sir.
Yep.
Yes.
Looks like we have consensus,
good.
Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
presentation.
Okay. We still good? All right. Brings us back to action item 10, cooperative agreement between Beaumont Unified School District and the City of Beaumont regarding delayed offsite improvements associated with Beaumont High School expansion project. I think it's offsite. Mr. Hart, staff report?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, City Council. So yeah, the Beaumont Unified School District is currently under construction of expansion at the high school. The current high school has an enrollment of about 2,990 students and a capacity of up to 3,880. The expansion is expected to allow capacity to increase to 5,244 students. The expansions that they are constructing consist of some of the following. Will be a new entry closet and walkway, a new lunch shelter. There will be two 25,000 square foot, two-story buildings. One of those will house up to 18 classrooms and the other one would house 24. There will also be some reconfigured parking and circulation. And they are proposing a new driveway along Cherry Valley Boulevard, a few hundred feet westerly of the main entry now, to allow a second access point. It should be noted that this will only be for right turn ingress solely, and so no left-hand turn movements and no egress. So, excuse me, due to the significant increase in future enrollment, staff as well as our city traffic engineer, Miniger and Associates, reviewed the environmental impact report as well as architectural and civil drawings, and we identified some offsite improvements that needed to be constructed in order to help mitigate and ease the traffic congestion. The required improvements will help ensure that the requested encroachment permit for the new drive access on Cherry Boulevard is consistent with the level of service objectives on the recently adopted general plan. The following are the identified improvements within your staff report. I'll kind of just briefly go over them. The first is Beaumont Avenue and Cherry Valley Boulevard, the intersection. We will be looking to extend the northbound left turn pocket by a distance of 30 feet to allow for a greater stack. The bulk of the improvements that we are requiring are at the intersection of Beaumont Avenue and Brookside. So we would be extending, or they would be extending, excuse me, both the northbound and southbound left turn movements on Beaumont Avenue. We would be modifying all signals to allow for protected permissive turns, which we've discussed at precinct council meetings. And we would also be installing a right turn overlap phase for eastbound Brookside. The right turn overlap phase will allow a significantly greater flow of right turn movements expected to see at the leave of school times. Effectively, this would have put a right turn arrow while the northbound left turn arrow going on from Beaumont to Brookside is green, and we would restrict U-turns at that time. And lastly, obviously, the improvement, which would be elective on the school's behalf, is the construction of the driveway itself on Cherry Boulevard. So the district has elected to approach this construction in two different phases. The first phase is currently underway, and excuse me, and the second phase is expected to be bid later this year. They've requested that the required traffic-related improvements be delayed to the second phase so that they may be competitively bid, as they were not part of the first phase bid package. Though the construction of the new drive access along Cherry Valley Boulevard was bid with the first phase, it's not planned to be functional until the completion of the second phase, which is not expected now until January of 2023. The district has requested that we allow the construction of the required first phase improvements, or the mitigation improvements, to be constructed with the second phase, but they be allowed to construct the driveway now as bid within the first phase bid package. Staff is able to support this request with the implementation of the associated cooperative agreement, which is attachment A of your board packet, as well as the understanding that the new drive access will not be operational until the required offset improvements have been completed. With that, it's the recommendation that City Council authorize the mayor to execute a cooperative agreement between the Beaumont Unified School District and the City of Beaumont regarding delayed offsite improvements associated with the Beaumont High School expansion project. I am available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hart. Councilmember Martinez?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask legal one question. Mr. Pinkney, because it involves my employer, would I need to recuse myself from this discussion?
Not, because you work for a government agency, your salary is not considered to be a source of potential conflict for you, provided that the item that we're voting on doesn't directly affect the department that you work in, which this doesn't.
Okay, I just wanted for the record. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Nicole, do we have any public comments for this item?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Do we have any discussion from council, or do I have a motion?
I have a question or two.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
So, Mr. Hart, I don't know if this is a question you can answer, but if you could just sort of summarize the timing. My understanding is this school year, there will be no access to parking from Cherry Valley. Is that right? It's all going to be on Brookside?
I don't think so. Mr. Hart?
Yeah, I believe you're correct. So they've done some significant improvements under the existing entry as well, and the existing parking lot that are certainly not complete. And so they do have some interim plans. I do not have that with me to let you know exactly what they will be operating for in the interim. But like I said, I do know that the significant portion of the expansion of the parking lot access is not expected to occur until early 2023.
The information that we received as parents from the school district basically said that all drop-off and pickup would be done in the parking lot with where the football stadium is. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, Mr.
Martinez?
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yeah, Councilmember Martinez.
So from what we heard today, it is possible they might open Cherry Valley. It would only be for the roundabout drop-off, where parents would be able to come in and drop off and leave, and that they could open up that upper parking lot for staff parking.
Okay.
So they haven't made a final decision on that, but the principal did say it is possible that could happen before their estimated January, because that's where they were targeting for
January of 22.
This of 2022. Yeah.
Okay.
So it could happen sooner than that.
Okay, and that would be, again, I'm not holding you to this, but that would be a loop, not all the way up to the pool drop-off as in past, but.
Pretty close, though.
Really?
Pretty
Okay.
close to that. But the students would walk along the front of the gymnasium, because that area is still closed from the pool up to the.
And then as far as staff parking is still underneath the solar panels?
Still under the solar panels or up by the library, or perhaps a little bit there.
And there will be no loop for people looping off of Brookside? In other words, Brookside, your only option is to go into the district parking lot?
That is correct. And if staff can go into that one though for their staff parking.
Okay.
But parents would have to keep going down to the sports complex as well as students.
Because I get to take them to school this year, so I'm not looking forward to this, but, okay, thank you.
You buying a van, perhaps?
What's that?
You buying a van? You pick up
Maybe Uber?
Do we have any other comments from council, or do I have a motion?
Mr.
Or
Mayor,
Well, I can make the motion. Since I don't need a recuse, I'll go authorize the mayor to execute a cooperative agreement between the Beaumont Unified School District and the city of Beaumont regarding delayed off-site improvements associated with the Beaumont High School expansion project.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to action item 11, approval of purchase and sale agreement by and between the city of Beaumont and Orem Capital for certain real property located east 4th Street, east of Beaumont Avenue. Staff report by Mr. Kyle Warsinski.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is the purchase sale agreement between the city and Orem Capital. The city owns various properties along 4th Street, roughly east of the Del Taco and the former Denny's site. City Council authorized the city manager to negotiate a sale on the portion of some of these properties to an interested buyer. That buyer, which is Orem Capital, is under escrow to purchase the former Denny's property and demolish that building and eventually build a new structure that would house a fast food drive-through concept. Through the process, the property owner learned that part of their site plan that they were proposing actually overlapped onto a small portion of the city-owned property that we own on 4th Street, approximately 7,400 square feet. Talked about the fact that, so it's roughly 0.17 acres, 7,400 square feet, commercially zoned land, commercially designated under the general plan. Those attachments are provided in your staff report. Also provided an aerial photograph highlighted in blue is the rough sketch of where the property in question is that the buyer would be interested in acquiring from the city to incorporate into his entitlement package to construct a new structure out there and bring in a new business. So they desire to purchase, entitle, and develop that property as well as the small 7,400 square feet of the city-owned property. The details of the purchase and sale agreement are listed in the staff report in terms of the purchase price at $81,457.20. 10% deposited into escrow. Because the 7,400 square feet is two properties kind of split, the site will need to be reworked with a lot line adjustment or similar surveying technique to be recorded at the county to create a legal parcel in which the city could sell them. So the buyer and the city have agreed to split that surveying and mapping cost 50-50. And the due diligence period provided within the purchase and sale agreement provides for an initial 180 days with various 30-day extensions that are built in based on performance. So that really concludes my report. The proposed purchase and sale agreement would generate that $81,457 in revenue to the Beaumont General Fund. And should the property be developed as envisioned by the buyer, the city would also realize additional property tax revenue, vehicle and lieu fees, and sales tax revenue if the business that eventually occupies the building is one that generates sales tax. And staff does recommend that City Council approve the purchase and sale agreement as presented. I'm available for any questions that you may have in terms of the purchase and sale agreement. And Jonathan Hanasob from Orem Capital is on the line in case you have any questions from the buyer. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that. Do we have any public comments on this agenda item? Nicole?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line, Nicole.
Do I have any discussion from council?
Mayor, I'll move to approve the purchase and sale agreement as presented.
I'll second that.
Roll call,
Councilmember
please.
Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to action item 12, award a professional service agreement to SGH Architects for the architectural design for City Hall renovations in amount not to exceed $191,000 and authorize the city manager to sign change orders up to $20,000. Staff report by Ms. Lori Miller.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. In September of 2017, the City Council approved the 5-year capital improvement plan, which included a project for the City Hall complex with $435,000 DIF funds. In June 2018, City Council approved the project budget increase to $1 million. Since 2017, the project has been expanding the available office space for current needs in City Hall and Building B. The next phase will expand the office space throughout the existing kitchen, Room 1, Room 2, and Room 3 of City Hall. In June 2021, City Council approved the 5-year CIP, which included additional projects for City Hall roofing, fire sprinkler system upgrades, restrooms, HVAC, and Building B window replacement. These projects are intended to provide updated repairs to City Hall and Building B and accommodate the expansion of additional office space. The consultant will provide architectural design, plan check and review, bid assistance, construction administration, and closeout assistance. City staff prepared a request for proposal for the architectural design and related services for the City Hall renovation. The RFP was advertised on May 10th, 2021 via publicpurchase.com, and 69 firms accessed the proposal. City staff received 4 timely proposals. Each firm was evaluated by a 5-person panel and a man from Nantucket. I'm just kidding. Based on the following criteria: project approach, team organization, related experience, references, and proposed fee. City staff interviewed the firms with the top 3 scores on July 7th, 2021, and is recommending that the project be awarded to SGH Architects. Their proposal and interview was the most comprehensive, contained the best value for service provided, demonstrated a proven track record on projects of similar size and scope, as well as
a thorough understanding of city needs. SGH, original price for the scope of work was $439,500. However, city staff was able to negotiate a reduction in fees to $191,000. The professional services agreement in an amount not to exceed $191,000 for the architectural design for the City Hall renovation will be paid from CIP project account CF 104 and internal services fund buildings. The budget for each project are listed below. Staff asks this evening for City Council to award a professional services agreement to SGH Architects for the architectural design for the City Hall renovation in an amount not to exceed $191,000 and authorize the city manager to sign change orders up to $20,000 for a total contract not to exceed $211,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Nicole, do we have any public comment? This
I have
item?
no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, I'll open it up for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Councilmember Finn.
So on page 227 in the agenda packet, near in the top paragraph, where it was mentioned that SGH's original price for the scope of work was $493,500, and staff negotiated that down to $191. That's obviously a big change.
Yeah.
Was it the fact that they did the company? I would assume they didn't just cut fees to do that, but can you explain maybe what was changed in that scope
Yes,
of
sir.
work to account for that?
Yes, it was a better understanding of the project.
Okay, all right, very good.
Oh.
And were they, with that original 493, was that similar to some of the other bids that were received, or were they just way over the top, but the group figured that they were still the best choice?
They were, with the original fees, they were way over the top, but they were trying to anticipate a lot of seismic needs for the renovation, not understanding that the scope.
Okay, all right, thanks for
So
the
that's-
info. Okay.
No problem.
We're good. Ms. Miller, one quick question. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear, and it's regarding the reduction. So the architect didn't make the reduction until after they were given the job. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. We did negotiating.
Okay, so so the negotiation was done prior to the selection of the architect?
Yes, we actually took two firms into the next step to negotiate. And
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have no other questions. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that we I move that we award a professional services agreement to SGH Architects for the architectural design for the City Hall renovations in an amount not to exceed $191,000 and authorize the city manager to sign change orders up to $20,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $211,000.
I'll second. Have a roll call?
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to action item 13, award a public works agreement to Zoran Construction Group, Inc. for the demolition and reinstallation of bus shelters in concrete at Beaumont Walmart Transit Center, CIP Project T03, in an amount not to exceed $72,500, and authorize the city manager to sign change orders up to $7,250. Staff report by Ms. Elizabeth Gibbs.
Hey, Mr. Mayor and City Council, I'm going to take this staff report for Elizabeth today. And I do come before you guys today. Back in 2019, City Council approved an application for our transit department to secure some LC top funding that would allow us to improve the Walmart bus stop along with some other bus stops in some of our downtown areas here in the city. So we started a plan on trying to accomplish that. We came to you back in May of this year, and you approved a purchase order for just over $55,000 so that we could purchase the shelter. It was a cheaper way for us to do that. So we have done that after you allowed us to do that and gave us permission back in May. That has been ordered, and we're hoping to receive that sometime in the month of September. So as this project continues along, the next step in the process was going out and trying to find a contractor who would be able to install the shelter for us, but also perform some much needed improvements to the Walmart transit bus stop that we have in our city. It is one of our most used stops that we have here in the city. On June 3rd of this year, we sent out a request for some bids to come in, try to get a hold of some contractors who would be able to or be interested in performing that task for that rehabilitation project. We ended up putting it up on the public purchase and per all the Beaumont municipal codes, advertised it to different individuals and different contractors. We had about 43 contractors who accessed the posting on public purchase. Of those 43, 24 businesses downloaded the actual the request for bids. And then we ended up receiving only one sealed response, and that was Zoran Construction. After we received that one sealed response, we contacted some of the 24 that did download it, and we wanted to see maybe why they didn't turn in a competitive bid. And almost unanimously, each of them said they're just they're booked right now as far as being able to accomplish the project in an acceptable time frame for us. And so we went forward with this public works agreement with Zoran. That's what we're bringing before you today. We are excited about this project. It is going to bring some much needed improvements to that particular bus stop. For that area, we're looking at getting 4 new benches, 2 solar powered shelters. We're getting 2 lean bars, 3 bike racks, 8 trash cans, a informational kiosk that'll be lit at night as well. And we're also going to be doing some concrete work around the area. So the perimeter of the project area is in the city right of way. The work's going to be done in our area on the city right of way. There is, it is right on the border of the private property there at the Walmart Center. And so as part of this, we are asking to have a contingency built into the budget just to, in case we do run into some landscaping issues, we are going to be adjusting some of the landscape that's out there. And we're going to be adding mostly concrete to the area to give a bigger concrete pad for people to stand on and people to be comfortably spaced out as they wait for their buses. But just in case we do run into some landscape issues, we do have a contingency fund to repair broken pipes and probably some things that might get trampled in that construction process. And if that does occur, we will work with the property owner, and that's the Walmart in that area, and work with them on restoring any of that landscape that we destroy in this process of building us a new shelter. So we're excited to bring this before you today. The project summary and the budget is listed in the staff report as well. We are asking for the amount of $72,500 and the contingency of $7,250 just in case the city manager needs to sign for that for the contingency stuff. If you have any questions about the bus stop or about the project, I'd love to answer those for you.
Thank you very much. Nicole, do we have any public comments on this item?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, I'll open it up for council discussion.
Mr.
Councilmember
Mayor,
Finn.
thank you. Does the $72,000 bid fall within staff's expectations? And were there any negotiations that needed to be made to adjust the scope of work?
It did fall within our expectations, and it hit some of our budget that we were expecting in that. So it was in that area. There is a lot of concrete that we're adding, and so we were expecting a bid to come in that range.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, did we do our diligence in looking up any references or any type of other work they might have done locally to see if there were any
Sure.
complaints or comments on the company?
We did. We actually reached out. Yucca Valley was one of theirs. And in that conversation, Yucca Valley said that if they could hire one contractor, it would be Zoran. And so they were really positive, and they had just done some projects for that city. We took that as a good sign. But we did do some follow-up. We did some references and wanted to do some checks on this particular contractor. And we were pleased to hear great reports from other cities.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Doug, I just have one quick question, and I know this has been answered before, but I just want to reiterate so that it doesn't get lost, but landscaping. We are going to re-landscape that area as well, is that correct?
Yeah, the site plan shows that we are going to be taking out a lot of the landscaping, and there will be we're anticipating some stuff. Some of the bushes, there's some large bushes. If you drive by it now, those large bushes are going to stay in place. But we will be taking away some of that and just kind of taking back our right-of-way area that was in there. Right now, the way it's designed, some of that landscaping kind of comes over that line, I guess you would say, on our property. And so we're going to clean that up and have our concrete going over there. And then we're anticipating, because of the work site and the type of work and what they're going to be pulling in there as far as doing the demo and whatnot, that there will be probably some stuff that we'll need to replace, maybe some irrigation lines or things that'll end up breaking as we bring in backhoes and tractors and stuff in that area to do the demolition and move the stuff in. So we will be working with the property owner to restore that area.
Okay, please, because it definitely, I'm excited about the bus stops, but that area is sorely lacking in landscaping as well, so I appreciate that. Have any other questions from council, or look for a motion?
Mayor, I'll move to approve a public works agreement with Zoran Construction Group Incorporated in the amount of $72,500. Authorize a 10% contingency in the amount of $77,250, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
I'll second that. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. Brings us to item 14, multi-jurisdictional agreement between the City of Beaumont and the City of Calamasa relating to the provisions of the sewer services by the City of Beaumont to certain property within the City of Calamasa, which is identified as Country Club Village Project. Staff report by Ms. Christine Day.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an item for a multi-jurisdictional agreement to serve a property outside the City of Beaumont jurisdictional boundary. The property is located in the City of Calamasa and is subject to a 2002 settlement agreement between Beaumont, Calamasa, and Oak Valley Partners. That particular settlement agreement, the City of Beaumont agreed to serve sewer service. According to state law, we do have to have a multi-jurisdictional agreement that would be approved by LAFCO. This is the first step in that process. The City of Calamasa approved this this MJA last night at their city council meeting. The staff is recommending that you approve this agreement this evening. Again, this is the first step in a multi-step process. In addition to this, we will then submit to LAFCO the annexation agreement, which will extend your service boundary for wastewater to include this. Once that is done and approved by LAFCO, then we would go back and refine the sewer study that the applicant has submitted based on the development map. At that time, we would identify any points or conveyance upgrades that need to happen. And then we would enter into a second multi-jurisdictional agreement, which would allow the City of Beaumont to perform and apply all of our pretreatment ordinances that are required to be in the Inland Empire brine line for the treatment plant over into Calamasa. So that would be the next item that would come before you, and we would anticipate that would be a couple of months once the several other items are done. If if approved by LAFCO through the annexation process, then the developer will do the sewer study and will be responsible for all the upgrades. Those would need to happen prior to a building permit. And again, those would be on the developer's expense. In your staff report, we have included the multi-jurisdictional agreement, the settlement agreement, just as a reminder, the LAFCO letter that was dated back in November of 2020. And then we also included the City of Calamasa staff report and the will serve letter that the City of Beaumont issued in 2014. I'm happy to answer any questions. And we also have the developer's representative on the line if you have any questions for them.
Thank you, Christine. Nicole, do we have any public comments on this item?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do you have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line, Nicole.
And with that, I'll open it up for council discussion. Councilmember Martinez?
Yeah, Ms. Day, if any part of the project wants to be modified or changed in any way, I mean, I don't know enough about the procedure. Would they have to go back and redo the whole thing again? Studies, surveys, LAFCO, all that?
They will, as part of this, if any part of the project, say they change from some commercial to multifamily, and they've actually had some initial talks about that, we would require them to rerun the entire sewer study and again, make sure that the conveyance system all the way back to the plant can handle that conveyance.
Okay, and the only reason I really asked is because since it's under another city's jurisdiction as far as that, I wanted to know where we came in the process. But we have to approve the sewer before it goes on anyway, so.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem White?
Thank you. So I know that in the recent past, we've had concerns about the maintenance of the center dividers, the landscape maintenance of the center dividers along the street. Can't think of the name.
Champions Drive?
Champions Drive, thank you. And I don't know that that was addressed in this settlement agreement. Is that an issue that we still are concerned about? And I do know that this came up with the property owner as well. So I just want to know if maybe I missed that.
No, sir, that is still an outstanding issue between the City of Calamasa and Party Homes or Tri-Point Homes. The City of Beaumont is not party to that portion of the agreement because the agreement actually references the City of Calamasa taking that portion of the street. That will actually have to be done prior to final mapping because as it stands today, there is no access points onto a public road for this development.
And that road, Champions, is in the City of Beaumont, or is it part in Calamasa and part in Beaumont?
It is part in the City of Beaumont and part in the City of Calamasa.
Okay, and because I get this from a lot of friends that live in the area, so what is the plan for maintaining the landscaping there? And Mr. Pinckney, if this is off topic, feel free to jump in, but I think because it's part of that development and we're going to be providing, we have to provide some kind of guidance and access to curb cuts into the new project, correct?
No, sir. The actual curb cuts will be the City of Calamasa's once they take over the property.
Okay.
If the City of Calamasa does not take the property from Tri-Point Homes, then Tri-Point Homes would be able to stop any access points onto that road because they technically own that fee simple.
And so who's maintaining those center dividers now? Is it the city on some of them and Tri-Point on others, or?
Yeah, the road actually has multiple owners. So the HOA owns some. Morongo actually owns some near the golf course. The City of Beaumont owns some. And currently today, Tri-Point My understanding in talking with TriPoint is that they have gone out and maintained those medians that they own today that are supposed to transfer over to the city of Calamasa. They have gone out and done some maintenance on those.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem White.
Just a comment.
Councilmember
Mayor.
Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. Christine, good job. I mean, this is the first step on that, controversial or unresolved ownership on that Champions and Desert Lawn on that. I mean, the reason I say that, I mean, now everybody's jumping and cooperating on this, especially City of Calamasa on this. But I'd like to thank you and your staff, working on this. I know Mayor Pro Tem Lloyd White is right, who will be maintaining the center dividers in there or the median in there. And I live in the area, so and our city did a pretty good job on last year maintaining our portion and jump in right away to take the responsibility, but the other side is not taking that responsibility. So I cannot imagine for since 2002, 18 years, somebody getting benefits on this, but not us. So again, thank you so much. I mean, your staff and doing a good job on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have one more point
Okay,
of order.
Can I get mine out first and
No.
come back to you?
Yes. Well, you know what, actually, I should probably go first.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure, Mr. Santos, you live real close to that street, correct?
Yeah, it's
Have we checked to see if that's an issue within 500 yards of, is the project extend up to where your property is?
No, not that close.
Okay.
It's across the high school where the line starts.
Okay. I just
And
wanted
we did the survey in there, and our city made the survey the property line on that.
Okay.
If you look on the center line, that there's a stake in there, so you could identify that in there.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up
No,
before any
No,
more
that's a good
discussion
point.
went on.
I appreciate
Good
that.
point.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem White. Christine, I know that staff monitors businesses and their impacts to, when they tie into the sewer. We won't, this is in the city of Calamasa. How will we monitor business licenses? Is that, are we still going to be able to do that?
We will. The second MJA that will come before the city council will be between the city of Beaumont, the city of Calamasa, and the developer. And part of the requirements will be that we need to see plumbing plans, and annually at the business license renewal, they will be required to do the same wastewater surveys that we have tasked our business owners with doing. And what that will do is help us manage the system. As part of your brine line permit, we're required to survey all of the businesses to make sure that they don't turn into significant categorical users. And so we have begun to work that process out with the city of Calamasa. And what that will do is anytime a business changes over, so if it's a retail store today, say it's an AT&T store, and then AT&T decides to move and it becomes a restaurant, we will have the opportunity to review that building plan, that plumbing plan, and require the necessary items to be installed prior to approval.
Is that something that city of Calamasa will be legally bound to when we get to that point?
It'll be a multi-jurisdictional agreement that will be approved by both city councils. And should they not do it, then you will have the ability to withdraw at that time.
And by doing that, though, does that mean we would cut sewer service?
You could, yes, sir. Part of that agreement will be they have to allow us to apply all of our pretreatment and fog ordinances within the jurisdiction of Calamasa.
Okay. The concern that I have is that that doesn't follow through and we're forced to do something such as cut sewer service, and then that becomes a legal issue for the city of Beaumont.
Yes, sir.
So, we'll see how this progresses. The last question that I have is, as we do this, I just want to make sure that the developer is required to get all improvements in place prior to any permits. I don't want any temporary setups. I don't want any temporary, any type of temporary system set up. I want everything is permanent and all the improvements done prior to permit issuance.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that covers my concerns and questions. Have a motion?
And Mayor, I'll make the motion for the city staff to approve the multi-jurisdictional agreement between the city of Beaumont and the city of Calamasa relating to the provision of sewer services by the city of Beaumont to certain property within the city of Calamasa, the Country Club Village project.
And can you give us just a minute? We're just checking something real quick before you vote.
Can we take you want to just take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, Nicole, we'll go ahead and just take a 5-minute break while they're doing the research on that. Good answer, buddy. Good answer.
That's why he's pro tem.
We're back in session. We have a motion, and I will second. There's a motion by Councilmember Martinez, and I'll second that. You have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. That brings us to item 15, authorize employment contract with Finance Director, Ms. Carrie Mendoza.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Many of you know Miss Eustace. She's been with us since 2017, serving as a senior accountant. As recent as May, she's been serving as interim finance director. City manager started negotiating with her for a long-term employment contract over the last few weeks. Little bit of background on Miss Eustace. She holds a associate's degree in accounting and a bachelor's degree in business administration. She has over 20 years of government and finance experience, ranging from school districts to obviously cities. I'm sure she would be willing to answer any additional questions you might have in regards to her resume. There's an employment contract that the city manager has negotiated the terms of, and the city attorney's office has reviewed the language in the contract. So before you, I'm requesting that you authorize the city manager to sign the agreement with Miss Eustace.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mendoza. Nicole, do we have any public comments on this item?
I have no written comments on this item. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay, so with that, we'll open it up for council discussion or a motion.
I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
So do we, this contract is for, I believe it was 179-ish?
In total.
That's the fully loaded burden cost with benefits and all.
Okay, and what is the comparison of that to the former finance director?
There's a savings of approximately, I think about 15 to 20%.
Okay, and have we already filled the senior accountant position? Once
We have not.
We have
We have not no, we have not.
Okay, so we still need to fill that position as well. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. That's all I had.
Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, I just want a quick comment. We've been listening to Ms. Eustace at the Finance and Audit Committee, and she's been doing a very good job, and we've been very impressed with how she's filled in. I fully support that, and I just want to give that little comment.
Well, thank
She's
you.
doing a great job, and we welcome her aboard if you guys approve.
Okay. Ms. Eustace, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you stepped up to fill that vacancy when just right in the middle of, or towards the end of budget season. So I know it was, I'm sure, a very difficult decision to make, but we do appreciate your dedication and professionalism. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll move to approve the employment contract with Jennifer Eustace and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. Brings us to item 16, adopt a resolution of the City Council ordering the collection of weed abatement charges and directing the county auditor to collect such fees on the tax rolls. Staff report by Ms. Jennifer Eustace.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. What you have before you is weed abatement charges. Some properties within the city are on a subscription basis, which assigns a city-approved contractor to their property to complete the weed abatement. Property owners then assess the cost of the abatement on their annual property tax. Property owners that are not on subscription service who do not complete their weed abatement are sent a notice, and if they don't comply, then the city sends out their contractor who does the work and adds the cost on a list for collection through the tax rolls. The total for this year is $61,333.50. And attachment B, starting on page 511 of your packet, provides a list of charges by parcel. The recommended action is to waive the full reading, adopt by title only, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, ordering the collection of weed abatement charges and directing the county auditor to collect such fees on the tax rolls.
Thank you, Finance Director Eustace.
Thank you.
We have any public comment on this item?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
I will open it up for council question or a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to waive the full reading and adopt by title only a resolution of the City Council of the City of Beaumont, California, ordering the collection of weed abatement charges and directing the county auditor to collect such fees on the tax rolls.
I'll second.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Finn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. Brings us to item 17, reappropriation of fiscal year 21 unexpended expenditures and pre-approval of vehicles and equipment purchases. Staff report by Jennifer. You staying working overtime today?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Per the City of Beaumont Financial Management Policy, unexpended appropriations cannot be used in subsequent fiscal years unless reappropriated by the City Council. The fiscal year 21 budget included various appropriations for vehicles and equipment, which due to the COVID-19 pandemic were not available for purchase. Each of these items are still needed by the various departments, and city staff requests that the funds be reappropriated due to extenuating circumstances. Attachment A on page 517 of your packet provides an estimated fiscal year 21 ending fund balance for each of the funds within the appropriation request. And attachment B, starting on page 518, lists the items for consideration of appropriation with the associated budget adjustments. Staff is requesting an increased amount in these items to address inflation and current market conditions. For the general fund, staff is requesting to appropriate $214,999. This is to purchase 5 trucks, a graffiti rig, and a Sampro. We are also requesting the reappropriation of a police interceptor in the amount of $58,400 to replace the vehicle that had been converted to a canine patrol. And the funding for this will be a transfer in from the Public Safety CFD Fund. The Equipment Replacement Fund has an estimated ending fund balance of $134,302. Staff would like to reappropriate that balance to the purchase of a backhoe for the Streets Department, and the remaining cost of $30,698 would come from the Equipment Replacement Internal Service Fund. Also, staff is requesting reappropriation of $71,361 for the purchase of a stump grinder and chipper from the Equipment Replacement Internal Service Fund. The chipper staff is requesting in this appropriation is an upgraded version from what was approved in fiscal year 21, as the Parks and Grounds Department rented the smaller version and realized it was not functional for what they needed. Therefore, we have included the cost to upgrade to the larger size. And I'm going to stop there to see if there's any questions before I move on to the next section.
Nicole, do we have any public comments on this item?
I have no written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Finn?
Yes, quick question. So in reference to, back to what we've talked about in the past on the shortage of vehicles and the price appreciation on those and so forth, has it been identified as to where the city plans to purchase the police interceptor from? And is that something that's going to happen very shortly after if this was approved?
Yes, that has been secured, and I can't remember who it is through that the police department is going through, but the price has been secured, and they have put in a requisition for that vehicle. So
Okay.
that will be coming through at the amount that is specified in the report.
And then if that comes back through, and because it's Ford, and another reason why I'm asking is my son works for Raceway Ford in Riverside. So if it's anything that comes through that, and if it's to be voted on from the board, I would appreciate a heads up on that so I can recuse myself. But I want to make sure that if we authorize this now, it doesn't automatically go and ends up with that dealership.
It is not with that dealership, I can
Okay.
tell you that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
And-
Councilmember Finn.
If your son, does he reside with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Finn.
No. Is she going to keep going on this item?
If you don't have any questions at this point, we'll have her keep going.
Okay, I'll let her keep going.
Okay. I just want to make one quick comment. I'm really glad that I believe Parks and Ground regarding the stump grinder tested the size that they had ordered previously so that we didn't waste money on something we couldn't use, so I appreciate that. You can continue, Ms. Eustachian.
Okay, thank you. So in relation to why we couldn't purchase these items in fiscal year 21, staff is also requesting pre-approval of vehicles and equipment. As per the City of Beaumont purchasing policy, all purchases above $25,000 are to be brought forward to City Council for approval. Demand and prices for equipment and vehicles have increased due to international and domestic supply chain disruption from the pandemic. Purchasing these items has become very difficult as supply is limited. So staff is requesting the pre-approval of these items within the appropriated budget limits when they become available, as a delay to bring these items to council could result in price increases or even the items becoming unavailable. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions from council.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eustachian. Nicole, anybody else pop on the line regarding this item?
No written comments. Carrie, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers on the line.
I will entertain a motion or initial discussion. Councilman Martinez,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I have one question I'm trying to figure out. So what I'm trying to figure out is how much in addition to the original amount did it go up? I calculated around 113,000. Am I looking at that right?
Yeah, that's about right. I have it more by item,
Okay.
and it's listed in the staff report on what was previously approved versus what we're requesting
Right, and
now.
I added it up because I wanted to see what the total was, because I didn't get a total. Okay, so, and that's what you're saying, it's going up 113, one, because we get the bigger chipper, and then to adjust for inflation and so forth. Is that
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Have a motion or any other question?
I'll make the motion, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed reapportion of the general fund expenditures in the amount of $214,799. Approve the proposed reapportion for purchase of the 2021 Ford Police Interceptor in the amount of $58,400. Approve the proposed reapportion, now I know when did this, of equipment replacement and equipment replacement internal service fund expenditures in the amount of $236,361, and provide pre-approval for the purchase of vehicles and equipment within the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget authority.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Santos?
Aye.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes. And just as a reminder, item 18 was covered earlier in the meeting, so we will go to legislative updates and discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening with the legislative update. The legislature is currently on break, and so for the report this evening, I'd like to just update you on the legislative platform, what has been happening in the legislature up till this point, and then where we're going to go from here for the remainder of this session, as well as for the forthcoming session in 2022. So each year the council establishes or adopts a legislative platform. The guiding principles that we have been working with, have been focused on, include preserving local control, promoting fiscal stability, supporting funding opportunities, and enhancing public safety. In Sacramento this session, the focus has been primarily on pandemic-related issues, along with the ongoing discussion of planning, zoning, and housing-related issues, public safety, and a smattering of other legislation that kind of weaves everything together. Staff has been working with Townsend Public Affairs on an ongoing basis to monitor legislation, both 1 year and 2 year bills, and then to provide letters in support or opposition as warranted or as council has directed staff. Staff recently met with Townsend to evaluate opportunities to refine the city's current approach to addressing legislative and regulatory issues. And we broke the priorities out into short-term and long-term. So short-term being in the next 12 months, things that we can focus on, and then long-term would be things that would be 12 months and longer that we would need to focus on. So some of our short-term focus opportunities include pursuing state and federal funding opportunities for transportation and other types of projects. We're going to continue monitoring legislation in areas of importance to the city, in particular local control, which seems to be getting chipped away at periodically by Sacramento. And then also work on building new intergovernmental relationships and continuing to grow the city's current relationships. For our long-term strategies, we discussed, of course, continuing to pursue state and federal fundings for transportation projects and some of our larger long-term projects, participating in larger scale regional legislative activities, and then working on development and implementation of a strategic lobbying plan. I'm open to answer any questions or entertain any discussion council might have regarding this update. As I said, the legislature's on break right now, so I don't really have any updates on bills specific, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about bills that are still out there.
Looks like we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to economic development update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Don't have too much of an update before you tonight. We do have a Economic Development Committee next week on Wednesday at 4 p.m. So please tune in to that. And hopefully you don't have any questions. If you do, I'm here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warsinski. Anything? Okay, we'll move on to City Treasurer report.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. I have no report tonight. Our meeting is next Monday when I will get some feedback on the assignments you have given us at our last council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. City Clerk report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm glad this is a little shorter meeting this week. No report.
That's because you weren't here.
Right, figures.
Are we good? We have, thank you, and we have City Attorney report.
Yes, just briefly, earlier today, I provided each of the council members with a confidential attorney-client privilege mid-year litigation status report. If any of the council members have any questions about the contents of that report, feel free to call me. Otherwise, I have nothing else to report this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pinckney. That brings us to the City Manager report. Mr. Todd Parton, the one and only.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be able to address this with you tonight. First thing, sincere thank you for the contract with Jennifer Eustachian. Jennifer has, since she's been here, she's continued to grow and excel and take on larger and more prominent responsibilities with the city. She has been very instrumental in helping us progress, particularly the last year and a half, in developing processes and programs and implementation. So really appreciate that, and I'm happy for the city of Beaumont. She's going to serve the community very well. So very appreciative of that. Thank you. One of the questions we had last couple meetings ago was really kind of where we are with our emergency preparedness. So city staff has been getting organized, kind of getting reacquainted, especially as we've had the monsoonal patterns that have kind of reemerged. Primary concerns have been what's happening over the burn scars, the Dorado and Apple Fire burn scars. As y'all know, I've been sending out updates on those particular weather issues that we've had over the last week or so. We had actually, fortunately, had started talking at a staff level even a couple weeks prior to that about just recirculating, getting everybody reintroduced, those kinds of things. So we're in that process. Mercedes Cashmere, she's over one of the many things she has is public information. So she's been instrumental in proactively pushing information out to the community. on the various issues that we've been addressing. So again, we've got several outlets that we push that information out. So we'll be discussing some of those tools in one of our upcoming meetings soon, when we want to discuss community messaging, how we're messaging, how we interface with the community, and try to take public concerns and how we respond to those. But that is a key element to what we're doing. So we are getting organized. We've been coordinating back with CAL FIRE, with our departmental staff, and so we're as prepared as we can be, and we'll continue to hone our skills as we move forward. One of the issues that's recently come to the city's attention, and it may be something that City Council may decide is a critical issue, but the California Public Utilities Commission oversees the utility operations and rate making for, amongst other utilities, electric utilities. So SoCal Edison is actually back in 2019, had submit a general rate certification to the PUC. That is a 5-year plan for setting rates and identifying primary cost for the utility. And the PUC has to go through a process to evaluate that and approve that. In some cases, they can say you're not doing enough. In most cases, they say you're proposing too much, and they require cutbacks and reductions. And their primary concern is to make sure that the work proposed and the rate adjustments proposed in the rate requests are reasonable in their opinion. So one of the primary focuses of the SCE proposal to the PUC this last go-around in 2019 was fire protection and fire mitigation. And there were two primary components of their proposal that they submitted that there's been some pushback from the PUC. One of those is tree trimming and vegetation management. So one of the initial findings of the PUC was that they were not supportive of the increased level of effort from that perspective. The other, probably more critical thing is a concern by the PUC that SCE was committing too many resources towards replacing existing bare wire with insulated wire. And so that new insulated conduit, in the SCE opinion and what they've written to us, is that it is one of the primary points to help mitigate sparking, to mitigate the promulgation of wildfires. They had identified about 6,500 linear miles within high flood, or not high flood, high fire hazard zones. So the PUC ruling, the preliminary ruling, has been that there's been enough of that. They need to stop at the 2,500 miles that they've done. So, and I don't think it's necessary to proceed forward with the other line replacements that they've been proposing. If you look at the modified rate structures that are being considered through the GRC process, particularly for those protected lines, it's projected to have about a $2 per month impact per customer for existing SCE customers. So there is a rate implication there. There is a final opportunity for public comment and for the cities and entities to be able to provide their comments to the PUC. It is August the 5th is the deadline to do that this week. The PUC is scheduled to take the final vote and make their final determination on the GRC request on the 19th of August. So if the city wants to provide comment either in support of or in opposition to the SEC GRC, then we really have a small window of opportunity. So my request for council tonight is, it's a lot to swallow in a very, very short time frame. I know you have a bazillion questions. I still have some questions myself on some of this, but does council really have a feel for whether you would like to provide comment on the requested GRC?
Councilor Martinez?
Yeah, is the rate proposal planning to be over all SE customers or just the ones affected in those areas of the mileage?
It's going to be system-wide, so it'll be distributed amongst all the SCE customer base.
And at this point, because I understand the reasoning for it, and I think long-term, there could be some benefit regarding fire insurance, but I don't see anything referencing that here. Do we know? Are they looking into that, or?
That's going to be an indirect implication. I think the more direct implication would be the upgrade to the lines, and particularly if they can prevent the sparking or they can prevent the debris from blowing in and creating a fire hazard, actually will eliminate or reduce your PSPS events. So, that's one of the primary issues when the high winds are coming up. There's a concern about, debris blowing onto the lines, or there's a concern about the lines touching and arcing, which is a potential fire hazard. So, that would have I think, a very significant effect with regard to reducing those types of events. And then that feeds right into public safety. So PSPSs and rolling blackouts even have the potential to cause us to, scramble to maintain public safety. It certainly affects our wastewater operation where we lose power to lift stations, those kinds of things. So there's a very significant implication operationally to us also when we go through the PSPS events.
And that's a great point, because even though a lot of the areas are not in high fire areas, the shutdowns affect us dramatically here in town, so.
Correct, and we've seen the impact of insurance rates with just the last couple years with regard to what's happened as a result of the wildfires, so, there's definitely, nobody wants to see a rate hike, I know, but in some cases, is it justified?
Mayor Pro Tem White.
So what do you recommend as far as us providing input on August 5th?
Boy, and knowing that's going to raise my utility rate too, I think that I would support the request to go ahead and continue and finalize the replacement for the lines. Because I do think that ultimately that is a major factor with regard to being able to keep the system going during adverse weather conditions. And so I think they've made a good case for trying to do that line replacement.
So I'm comfortable with you doing that. Just my
Thank
2
you.
cents.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Finn.
Yes, did they publish any information as to the remaining amount where where they stopped and where those areas are, and is our area part of that?
Yes, it would affect this area as well. There are some lines that kind of continue on from the West Devers project and kind of come through some flood. I keep thinking emergency management, but fire hazard areas. So yes, we have parts of the system that come through Beaumont and the area right around Beaumont that would need to be replaced.
And that secondary effect, I've seen it in my business where it was easy to get insurance on a property a few years ago, but even when it's not in a high fire hazard zone, that even some areas are being affected where insurance companies are bailing, and it's getting harder and harder and more expensive, or they just can't get coverage at all.
Well, and from an economic development perspective, if you don't have a secure, steady source of power, it affects nearly every single primary employer that's out there. When the PSPS events happened, we had the 2nd Street Marketplace area shut down, so retailers weren't able to operate. So there's also an indirect effect, by all this to the city as well, so.
I'm with Mayor Pro Tem White on that as well.
I agree with that.
I think you have consensus for us to support.
Yeah, we will. And
Thank you very much for the explanation.
You betcha. And then the last item I have for you is Sam and I went to go see F9 last night. It's great to go watch with your son. Do not make it a date night. so.
Okay.
Oh,
Fast and Furious 9.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome, but yeah. Don't do your wedding anniversary and go see F9.
okay. Thank you for that tip, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
So Mayor, I have another question for the city manager, please.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
Thank you. During the public comments at the start of the meeting, the caller made the comment that we have a meeting upcoming to talk about our housing element again. She said something about next week, and
It's a workshop.
is it a workshop for
Oh,
us?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
because I didn't have anything on my calendar, so.
Yeah, so I think it's coming to the
You missed the
planning
memo.
commission also.
That's right, that's Christina stating.
That's
I
what
know.
I-
Mayor and council members.
Jumping.
We're doing a community workshop for the housing element as part of the planning commission meeting, which will take place next week, August 10th, at 6 p.m. So anybody who is unable to watch or attend the previous presentation here with City Council will receive much of the same information. It will be a little less formal, and we'll have a lot more opportunity for question and answer and community input as well. So feel free to spread the word, and if anybody has questions, you can direct them to Carol or I in the planning department. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Christina. It's hard enough to keep these guys all in line to also do all of this too, so.
Councilmember Finn.
Yes, back to that comment that was made. I missed where she said her property, was it Pennsylvania and 8th? Did we get that right?
She's
11th.
She's at
11th.
Pennsylvania and 11th.
Thank you.
11th, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is this side of the room done?
For now.
Okay. So with that, I will go ahead. Sorry, City Manager Parton, were you complete with your?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do we have any future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll go to council reports.
Can I go first?
Mayor Pro Tem White,
I have nothing to report.
Councilmember Finn.
Same thing, Mr. Mayor.
These twinsies today. Councilmember Santos.
No, I'd just like to say, congratulations to, Jennifer Eustachian, and welcome, and step up and everything. Other than that, I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Councilmember Martinez.
I write down so many notes, I wrote Fast 9 on here. Oh, my gosh. Nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay, really quickly, just want to give council an update. I will be attending a tribal council meeting with the Morongo Mission Band of Indians to present our I-10 corridor plan. So far, we have Calamasa, Banning, and we're hoping to get Morongo to sign on. So I'm just going to keep you up to date on that. And last night, I just want to thank, last night was National Night Out. The Parks Department and the Police Department put on Onward, the Disney movie. It was great to see park staff. It was great to see police staff. Our maintenance group was out there. Really nice screen that they rented. Made it, it was very big. I think it was 30 foot by 20, something like that. It's huge. The other thing that was great to see too were the directors that were out there, and the chief was out there. Deputy chief was out there. So it was great to see everyone out there participating and supporting this event. Hopefully, there was also food trucks. And all the food coming out of there looked really good. Hopefully, we can expand this event next year. And with that, that's all I have, and I will adjourn the meeting at 8:51.